would like, if I may, to take you on a strange journey.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another interview edition of Real Estate Realities with the Rebel Broker. I am very happy to introduce our guest today, Mr. Aaron Hendon. He is a real estate broker from Seattle, so he'll have some great insights for us. But he is also, he's not just a one-trick pony. He's also an author who has written a book called Moving Beyond Your Blind Spots. When does that come out, Aaron? I think you gave me an advance copy.
Yeah, I did, and it's I changed the name of it. It's called Shortchanged by Shortcuts, but it's the same book. I just changed the title.
Okay.
And I just literally ordered my first proof copy from CreateSpace. I'm self-publishing, so I just ordered my proof copy yesterday. So I would think, it'll be a month or two until I'm out of, until I'm ready to I'll be ready to release at the end of the month.
Okay.
I'll be ready to get pre-release, names and everything, and get it going at the end of the month.
Well, excellent.
Long answer.
All right, so unfortunately we can't give you a link to get the book right this minute, but when it does come out, I'll absolutely put a link in the show notes at the time when it does come out so everyone can go and take advantage of it, and I'll remind them to come back and check out this interview. Before we jump in and talk about that, your real estate experience, I'd love for you to sort of give us a quick review of Aaron Hendon. How did he get where he is? What's your background?
Well, I was born a Forbes, all right. We don't go back that far.
No,
right?
we don't. No, I don't know how many people would remember a Steve Martin reference from that far back. I'm just not sure.
Poor black man. I grew up in New York. I went to art school in New York. I graduated with a Bachelor of Fine Art degree, which left me eligible to work in the food service industry anywhere in the country. And I moved to New Mexico with my girlfriend and started waiting tables, as every good artist will do. And one day the baker quit in the restaurant, and I thought, let me try that. And I found that I knew how to bake. And so I started baking, and then I decided that I was going to open a bakery. And I got investors, mostly my parents, but some other people too, and put together a bakery in Albuquerque, New Mexico, selling bagels to New Mexicans. And that was a blast. Just a ton of fun. And great people, great education. Love being an entrepreneur, love being a business owner. And at some point in there, I got a coach, and the coach recommended that I do a program called the Landmark Forum. And I did this transformational 3-day program, and it sort of blew my mind. And my business transformed. It went from being unprofitable to profitable. It was just fantastic. And I ran it for about another 7 years or so. And then I sold it, and I went to work for Landmark in Phoenix. And then I sort of lived in Phoenix for 3 years, and then I got transferred to Seattle. And then during that time, I had 2 kids. Well, actually, my wife had 2 kids. She hates it when I say I had 2 kids. Yeah, she had 2 kids. And I was just done with those hours. And, I loved the company, but I just was done with working those hours. So I left, and I took a couple of tracked around for different sales positions. And then around 2010, during the dip, I got laid off, didn't know what to do, and got a job selling credit repair services, selling credit repair services, And I was smiling and dialing, 100 dials a day. And I thought, who do I know that could use credit repair services? Who do I know that I could use as a lead source, just being entrepreneurial about it? And one of the people I thought of were realtors. I thought, well, realtors know people that need credit repair. So I went ahead and got, as I was talking to my realtor friends, every one of them said the same thing. One of them said, all right, first of all, with your personality and the fact that you are doing 100 dials a day, you will kill it in real estate. If you can do 100 dials a day, you will kill it in real estate. I thought, all right. I thought real estate was about selling houses at the time.
Right.
But eventually, within a year or two, I took their advice, and I jumped into residential real estate, and I love it. My only regret is it took me so long to find it. It's entrepreneurial in all the fun ways, and none of the dumb ways. I don't have to reinvent the wheel. I don't have to make a business model. There's a business model, I mean, a millionaire real estate agent is a perfectly useful example of a perfectly good business model. And I'm not inventing some new widget. I'm not, everyone knows what a house is and everyone has real estate in their future. So from that perspective, it's great, but there's a million ways to make money in this business. Many different ways as there are personalities. So, you can do it any way you want. So it's both a startup and something that's really been established. It's got this fantastic appeal to me. And you get to help people with the largest transaction they were ever going to make, and just loved it. So that was about 5 years ago.
Okay.
And that's what I've been doing ever since. I've just been doing that and, educating people. I because of my time with Landmark, I come at it from an educator standpoint, from a consultant standpoint, from a view of, I'm a consultant. I'm a real estate consultant, really. And I take on clients like a coach would take on clients.
In Seattle, is there a difference? Is there two different licenses? Is there a real estate agent license and a broker license, or just a broker license?
Agent and broker. If
Okay.
you want, I can't be accountable for someone else.
Okay.
So I need to work for a broker.
Gotcha.
I need to have a broker.
I know there are some states where it's just one license and it's all done. Okay.
No, it's a real technical aspect of it. The way to say it technically is, when I work for someone, I am the agent of the broker.
Right. It's the same in California. Right. We have the same setup here.
Yeah.
All right. So now we're going to get into some of the details of your book. You've got a couple of things that make your book different from other books that I think are going to be interesting to point out. But what made you decide that this needed to be written? There's so many books out there that cover this topic. What was it you thought needed to be answered?
Well, two things. One is, it's interesting, Robert, because I don't think there are. I think it's a little bit of like blue water, that all the books that are written on the subject in real estate that I have found, so the vast majority of them are written from the perspective of someone who wants to be a real estate investor. Mm-hmm. So I know a lot of your listeners are, and that's great. And there's no shortage of podcasts or educational material about it, because frankly, it's not a very viable market to educate people on residential real estate, buying or selling their own home, because they do it once every 7 years. Mm-hmm. But nonetheless, they do it once every 7 years, and there's nothing to educate them on the process. And as a realtor, it just hits you in the face how unprepared people are for the single largest, most expensive, most impactful transaction of their life. It's not one of the, it is the. It's literally the pinnacle. It's the most expensive thing you own. It's the thing that you touch the most. It has the most emotional impact.
Yeah.
It's it, right? And you only do it every 5 or 7 years. And people have no idea how the process works. They have no idea how the whole thing goes. And it was evident to me why I felt compelled to write the book was when I go on a listing appointment, I have never been asked the one question that I felt was the most direct route for getting people what they want. Mm-hmm. See, when people list a house, they want the most money in the least time, right? That's
right.
What people want, right? Except nobody ever asks the question, hey, dude, what's your track record of selling homes? And what's the local average? How many days on market is local? I mean, how many days on market is the average here? And how many days in market have you sold houses for? And what's the average list to sale price ratio in this neighborhood? And what do you sell houses for? No one's ever asked me that. So one question that would, without a doubt, point to, hey, this person's competent at this. No, I'm going to hire the guy on the website with a lot of stars. Or no, I'm going to hire my cousin's brother is a realtor. Or I met this lady at an auction. Or the guy at the open house seemed nice. That's how you choose that's how you choose where to eat dinner.
Yeah.
You go to Yelp.
And statistically, most folks will go with the first agent they talk to on the phone.
It's unbelievable.
It's like 74% or something.
70%, over 70%. It is, and it was shocking to me. I could cold call people, show up at their house, if I was dressed nice and I'm confident, they'll give me their $700,000 house to sell. if I happen to be the first one there and they don't know and they don't like their cousin's brother.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's unbelievable. And it's just unbelievable. And I think it's because people don't know what to ask. They're embarrassed that they don't know what to ask. They think they're supposed to know what to ask, but they don't. And when you're supposed to know something that you don't know, you don't ask about it.
Right. And the industry is geared towards educating the public to ask the absolute wrong questions.
Totally.
See, now this is one reason why I was intrigued to have you on the show, Aaron, because this subject is it was the subject of the very first podcast I did in January of 2007, and it was also the very first article I wrote for the website back at the same time. And this is the pile of frustration that my show is built on. And one of the things that really annoys me, and I'm sure you'll have thoughts on this, maybe opposite thoughts, that whole top 1% thing that gets on the business card, or the little gold seal, or the little platinum seal, or whatever, which obviously no one ever tells you what that actually measures, and usually it measures things that should not matter to the seller or the buyer one bit. It tells how much money that person made in a certain period of time, or how many listings they got in a certain period of time. And while the total volume of business they do may be something you want to worry about, what if I told you that a top producer who earned one of those little medallions listed 75 homes in that same year, and that's what they got the award for, but they only sold 50 of them, and the rest of them didn't get sold, right? So there are statistics built into the system that could easily be put on a page for you to view in terms of a history of an agent that simply are not, that actually would tell you things that folks should care about when it comes to their agent. And the questions you suggest people ask are the exact same questions when I went recruiting to get people into my brokerage. I opened with what you just said. I opened with, I want to create a scorecard for every one of my agents that says, how often did you beat the local market in days on market? How often did you beat the local market in sales ratio to listing? You know, all these things. And the room cleared. I had maybe 40 agents, and none of them wanted to actually be accountable or have an accountability number for something that actually meant anything to consumers. And that's one thing that shocks me. And I don't, from the tone of your book, I'm guessing we're on the same page here. But how frustrated are you with the industry in general for pushing this idea of embracing statistics that absolutely have nothing to do with whether or not an agent's going to do a good job for you?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, first of all, I could not be any more on your page, okay? I mean, it's absurd to me, that if you ask an agent, what's your list to sales price ratio, they wouldn't know it. So you ask them what's their volume, they do. Mm-hmm. That's such a giveaway that they could care less. I know for a fact I sell homes for 106% of local market average, and last year, over the last 12 months, it was 102% in Seattle. Average. So we sell homes for 4% more. That's the money I put in my clients' pockets, and we do it at 36% less time on average. Okay, I know that number, but I couldn't tell you exactly how many homes I sold because that's not of interest to my client.
Right.
I mean, it shouldn't be of interest to my client. So, in terms of frustration, it's annoying for sure, and it's my view on it is this is what is going to. This is why the whole thing is going to get automated. The industry is going to dumb itself out of business.
Yeah.
It's going to idiot itself because this is why Quicken Loans can take business because people when shopping for loans aren't educated. Say, hey, you know what? You know what matters? Close. How often do they close on time? No one would use Wells Fargo. No one would use Bank of America. If they ask the question, what's your, how often do you close on time?
Yeah. Well, you know
so
what?
No one ever used the big bank.
I think this actually, I don't fear automation. I think automation exposes, and I hope, who knows? Maybe it just perpetuates the ugly stuff that I hate. But
Right.
My hope is that it allows folks like us who measure ourselves by more important things can demonstrate that
Yeah.
as soon as it goes automated, we'll be able to show an even greater value add that we bring to the equation in terms of, I'm beating everybody else by X percent in terms of how much I'm getting for properties. And when I tell you I'm going to list your house for X amount of dollars, you're going to get that or more, because the other implication there is if you have an agent who lists a home consistently at a price that is way above what it sells for, that tells you that person is crappy at picking a sales price, but also tells you that they may have fibbed to you at first or just taken the number you gave them just so they could get the listing. Two things that I also have a huge problem with, but are hugely common in the industry.
Yeah, buying people's listings is, I talk about that extensively in the book, and I talk about the psychology why people do that.
Yeah.
I also have, why people think that that's important, and, why it works for realtors, you know? Because,
we even have a name for it, right? We're the only industry that has a skeleton in the closet that we've named. I mean, we call them lost leaders, right? When we list a house that we just want to get the sign in front of it. We know we're listing it too high or poorly, but that's still good for us because it's free advertising. And this isn't something that's quietly talked about in the shadows. I remember day one, 1988, in my very first quote-unquote training class in a major nationwide real estate office. And this was one of the things we covered, and it was openly and talked about like this is absolutely an A-OK way to approach how you do things. So the problem, I think, also has a lot to do with how we train agents once they get into offices.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, you want to talk about disgusting practices or, just sort of ways that the industry is just sort of, just not in service of the customer is, farming. Geographical farming. We farm. Realtors farm. Okay? But you know what no one deals with? That makes the customer the crop. But the customer is not educated in the domain of, a neighborhood agent provides no value to you. I don't need to know your neighborhood to sell your house. You only want a neighborhood agent because you see their signs all over the place, and they could have gotten their signs all over the place because they don't sell houses, but they put their signs all over the place because they overpromise and underdeliver.
Yep.
You have no idea. But no one ever deals with that. I can't tell you how many listing appointments I get, where they go, well, do you know my neighborhood? I was like, well, I spent 2 hours running comps on it, so yeah. Well, what about this guy who's got his signs all over the place? Well, what about him? He did 3 deals last year.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about him? What do you want to do? You want to go with that guy because you think that knowing the neighborhood could provide some secret sauce? So people aren't educated. I wrote the book because I just couldn't bear to do business with people for the most expensive transaction they have and not educate them as to what's really happening here so they could be at the source of it.
All right, so here's what I'd like to do. We're going to take a quick break, so don't go away. But when we come back, we're actually going to talk about the book, believe it or not. And there's a couple of very interesting things that I think Aaron hits on that makes this a standout for folks. So don't go away. We'll be right back. Are you ready to jump in and start your search for your first investment property? Maybe you've decided that it's time to own your own home, or maybe you're ready to sell your home and move on to something new. No matter what your goal is, the Rebel Broker can help. That's right, aside from hosting this show, I am also the owner, broker of Whitelaw & Sons Real Estate Services right here in Silicon Valley. With over 25 years experience serving Silicon Valley, Morgan Hill, San Martin, and Gilroy, I or one of my great agents can help you achieve your goals in real estate. So if you're ready to look into taking that next step towards achieving your real estate goals, point your browser at www.soldbyrobert.com. That's www.soldbyrobert.com and get in touch. Let me show you how I will earn your business and your respect. Again, that's www.soldbyrobert.com, or you can call me at 408-852-0525. California Bureau of Real Estate ID 00984-909. Now, what's great about this book is this is the book is going to be a safeguard against so much of the crap that we've already talked about. And we could do another 30 minutes just on the crap, but this is going to be a great defense for you. But the book is kind of divided into two chunks, and I wanted to address that right off the bat. About the first 40 pages are not about real estate, really, right? They're about blind spots, mindsets, rationality, these types of things. Do you want just give everyone kind of a quick overview of the mindset you're trying to help people get into before they even get into the nitty gritty of the specifics of how to work through picking their agent, listing their home, all that kind of wonderful stuff.
Great. Well, I think that that conversation in the book, those chapters in the book, really are first of all designed to have people allow themselves to get present to the mindset that they're in, right? That we talked about in the first part,
right.
A little bit about how if people don't know the answer to a question, but they think they're supposed to, they won't ask because they don't want to look stupid. That's universal. That's not personal. Nothing wrong with that. No one's outside that. No one gets away with not knowing that lady at the party's name and asking your wife, hey, man, what's her name? Without asking the lady.
Right.
You do because you don't want to look stupid to the lady. And everyone does that. That's not like, it's not optional. You don't have a choice about that, right? But you do have a choice about how you act once that comes up. So if you could invent a different mindset rather than I'm supposed to know how to do this, or the alternative mindset that people find themselves in is I already know how to do this, which is even more detrimental to learning anything. If you think you already know, see, if you think you don't know and are supposed to, or you think you already do know, you're never going to ask the right questions.
Yeah.
So I wanted to give people another mindset that they could invent that would give them an opportunity to ask questions. And I thought, if you were the CEO of a company, and in this case, if you're selling a house, you have an asset to sell. If you were the CEO of a company selling a commodity in a crowded marketplace, how would you behave? How would you behave if you were the CEO of a company selling a commodity in a crowded marketplace? And I think if you started to really ask yourself that, if I was the CEO of a company and I had even that one thing, though, by the way, having a commodity in a crowded marketplace is already a radical shift for people because no one deals with their house like it's a commodity. No one deals with their house like it's one of a lot of things that people could buy.
Right.
Right? They think their house is special, and it's not. It's just not. But nonetheless, if you were the CEO of a large company selling a commodity, how would you act? Well, you would interview people. You wouldn't just hire the first agent you talk to. And you would have a set series of questions that you asked all the people, right? Like every job interview I've ever had, I was asked questions that I know they asked everybody else who came in.
Right.
They weren't just asking me random questions.
And of course, as we've discussed, these questions should relate to things that actually matter to you.
To them.
Right? So the things like how much money are you going to how do you tend to get the amount of money you promise for a house that you're marketing? Do you tend to sell it in the same amount of time or faster than other folks in the same marketplace? Absolutely important questions. For those of you who have joined the Rebel Underground, I believe you also have access to a list of questions. And what was awesome was the questions that Aaron suggests you ask are many of the same questions that are on that list that I've been kind of giving out as a freebie. And he's got it here in the book along with everything else that you're going to want to do. Now, I know we've talked a lot about things that aren't real estate specific in terms of mindset and blind spots, those types of things. But it's also going to walk you through picking your real estate agent, the steps to jump through to begin with to get into home ownership, selling your home. Now, one thing I wanted to ask, because before we finish off, I wanted to also talk to you a little bit about the market in Seattle, because I get an awful lot of folks asking about that. In section 3, you talk about the 7 steps to selling your home for the most money in the least amount of time. And I don't want to go over everything. There's a lot of good information in there. But what do you think is the biggest thing that folks overlook in that aspect of their real estate transaction?
Well, for one thing, price is king. Okay, so when you're listing your house, price is everything.
Right.
Okay, price it right, you'll make up for any other mistakes. Price it wrong, doesn't matter what else you do. It's not going to sell, right?
Right.
So you gotta get comps. You got to do your homework. Either you got to get a realtor to do the homework, which any good realtor will be happy to do for you. Really, I can't imagine an investor that came up to me to ask me to run comps on something where I would blow them off. I can't even imagine the scenario.
Yeah.
Right. But that's, so you got to get actual comps. You can't. But again, I wrote the book not from the investor perspective so much, because look, an investor is already going to have the mindset that they're a CEO of a company.
Right.
That's what they are. Right. But you get comps. You got to price it right. You got to price it at a point that, someone with the option to remodel their own homes, to rent, to buy something, to buy another home, you're competing against all those options.
Right.
When you're selling a home, right? Those are all options for a potential buyer. And you got to recognize that. So you got to look to see the home's not worth what you think it is. The home is worth what the market is. And when you're pricing the home, what you're doing is you're not setting the price of the home. You're setting the price under which you wouldn't sell it.
Right.
So you don't get to set the price. The market sets the price. You get to decide if you're willing to accept that price, but you don't get to say how much the home is worth.
Right.
And that's a big mistake people make. They price it where they think it's what it's worth to them, which is silly. Nobody sells a product from what it's worth to them. There's no industry in the world where, Microsoft doesn't sell Office at what it's worth to Microsoft.
Right.
Microsoft sells Office and what it's worth to the marketplace. It's a commodity. So that's one big mistake, is they price it wrong. And then, it's who they hire, but we've already talked about that. I think it's always a smart investment to provide the buyer with a pre-inspection.
Yeah.
To not make the buyer do the inspection.
Yeah.
If you're selling a property, hand over an inspection report when you. I don't get a downside to it. I don't see a downside to it.
And there isn't. This is something that has always surprised me. And whenever I see a listing that comes up that doesn't, and I get it. I get that if we're in a marketplace where it's a ridiculous seller's market and you're just selling it as is and you're telling everyone, bring all your offers by such and such a time on such and such a date, maybe that's how you go with it.
Yeah.
But, if you're preparing for listing a home, if I was going to sell my car, I'd want to know the little start before I start showing it to people. So I would want someone to come and look at a house to verify all the bits and pieces are doing what they're supposed to do. And if they find something ridiculously expensive that would have to be remediated, particularly if you're getting a conventional loan, there's an awful lot of things that a bank would require be fixed before they'll loan. It's good to know that stuff before you ever put the sign up. So for me, it's always been something I thought was mandatory to do before you listed a house, just so you're well informed on what you're selling.
Yeah, and then if there is a big thing, you can do it's not good. I bought 2 houses sometime this year, where the seller didn't give me inspection reports, right? And my client found things wrong with it because they don't give me an inspection report and I get to negotiate. If I get to negotiate with them, I'm getting money back, And, we asked for $5,000 we asked for $5,000 compensation for these 2 things that had they given us the report, we would have accepted it. Right. We would never ask for it. We would have read it and go, yeah, well, that's part of the house. But hey.
Yeah. Getting reports ahead of time more than pay for themselves, because you can say this is all stuff you knew before you wrote your offer. So the prices were all based on what you knew. So yeah, I'm with you on that one. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Aaron, this is your opportunity. Because your book isn't out yet, man. So what am I supposed to tell people? I can't tell them to go buy it. So this is your opportunity to shine. Let the Aaron light shine and tell us everything that's going on in Seattle. I want to know what the market's like, and give us sort of an overview of what's going on now, and then I have a specific question for you that I hope you can answer.
Okay, good. Good. All right. Well, first of all, by the time this airs, Robert, they can go to rationalrealestate.pro.
Okay.
Rationalrealestate.pro and get on the waiting list for the book. The website for that will be up, I am sure, by the time this airs. Rational Real Estate, and you can put that in the notes. Seattle market. Best market in the country. Super fast selling all year. Bam, bam, bam. 5, 6 offers. 10, 20% over asking price with nothing.
Jeez.
Couldn't keep a house on the market more than 6 days. Really through August, we hadn't had a house sit on the market more than 7 days. I think we sold 60 houses, something like that.
Yeah.
So super hot, super hot, super hot. Everything is super hot. Now, come September, October, little lull, sort of fell off the cliff. I just put a house under contract about an hour ago that had been on the market for 45 days.
Okay.
We listed at 788. We got 780. So even after 40 days, we're only coming down, not even a percent.
So let's hit this from let's go with buyers who want to live in their house first. If you had someone who wanted to relocate to Seattle, what is your suggestion?
Yeah.
Is there a region that you'd point them to where they're going to get the biggest bang for their buck? Even if you want to address something relating to a first-time buyer, but someone who just wants to live in it, it's not an investment for them potentially. What would be your first piece of advice to those folks?
Well, first of all, I would do it this month. Really,
okay.
Right now, just because just right now in Seattle happens to be really low. I think November, December, you're going to see a lack of inventory. People, no one's listing their house in November and December, and so all the houses that are left are going to go back to being sold. And then come next year, we got 4,000 people a month moving to Seattle.
So is it strictly a supply side thing for you this winter? You're mentioning November and December homes being off the market. Is there still enough demand that if folks did try to sell their homes during those months, they'd get tons of offers?
I would think if you came to market in last year in December, we sold a house had multiple offers over Christmas, between Christmas and New Year's.
So for sellers,
yeah, I would think
in your market, this might be a good time for sellers to jump on.
I would get sellers. If you're thinking of selling in Seattle now, I would put you off until. I might put you off until after Thanksgiving, but maybe the second week in November get listed so that you're off, something like that. I wouldn't do it this week.
Okay.
But it's still we're so jaded here. That's like a ridiculous thing to say. It was on the market for 40 days. There's places in the country where that's like minimum. That's like stupid.
Yeah.
Like everyone's freaked out because it didn't get multiple offers in the first week.
It's nuts.
So, perspective.
Yeah.
And then where you live is depending. Just like the seller doesn't get to set the price, the buyer doesn't get to say where they want to live.
Yeah.
There's three factors. There's price, there's location, and there's amenities. And you get 2 out of 3 of those. You don't get all 3.
Yeah.
And no one's shopping with, money's no object. So unless you're a money's no object guy, but if your money's no object, then you get 1 out of 2. You get either price, you either get size, or you get location.
Right.
And then we'll see.
All right. So we've talked about buyers and sellers. What would be your first piece of advice for someone who wants to invest in the Seattle market?
Wow. You got a bird dog. You got there are people that make their living out of here. There are, yellow letters and get out there and get the postcards and do the campaigns and hustle.
Yeah.
There are definitely people that don't want to sell on the open market.
So you're suggesting investors go directly to homeowners. They don't ping the MLS quite so much, but actually start doing direct marketing.
Oh, I wouldn't. There's not a bargain to be found on the MLS. You could not make a living on the MLS as an investor here.
Gotcha. All right.
Everything's got this. No, everything's gone. Anything on the MLS is already jacked up in price. You got no margin.
Okay. Now, one other thing I wanted to hit, and this is something I didn't fuss around too much with Seattle proper, but I did bounce around in Redmond, as a lot of listeners know. About a month ago, I moved my son up to Redmond to go to college, and in putzing around looking at different properties, I noticed tons of construction for apartments. And it seems there's some sort of regulations that exist up there that make it very rare for folks to actually build condos. They'll build apartments with the intent of, at some future date, turning them into condos. Is that a correct assessment, or did I miss the mark on that?
No, you got it dead on. I don't actually know the ins and the outs of the tax code and that makes it that way.
Yeah.
But it is absolutely 100% economically, the incentivization is for people to build apartments.
Because I'll tell you, the apartments I saw in that area were some of the most beautiful apartments I've ever seen. They are built
They're
like
gorgeous.
they absolutely are thinking in 5, 6, 10 years, whatever it is, I'm changing these things into condos. We're talking high ceilings, floor to ceiling windows, just
Yep.
beautiful, beautiful, what are going to be apartments in the area. And it's one of those things where I'd be interested in finding out, how do you, is there an inside track for that, or you're kind of just at the mercy of whenever large institution decides to put them on the market?
Yeah, I would think you'd have to wait. I don't know. Truthfully, Robert, I'm totally guessing out of my league on that question.
Okay.
So not a good. I know what you said is accurate. I wouldn't know how to, monopolize on that opportunity.
Okay, I was hoping we might have some way to turn that into an opportunity, but because I got to figure there's got to be a way to make that something sexy.
There may be. Great. It's above my pay grade, and it's not my focus. But I love bright and shiny things, and that does seem like a bright, shiny object.
Yeah.
I can poke around on it with you. That'd be fun.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, and then as always, if you ever come across something interesting in your market, I'd love to hear about it.
Yep.
One more time, I want to make sure everyone knows where to go to find your book.
Yeah. Good. So rationalrealestate.pro. So rationalrealestate.pro. And they can get on a waiting list. It's not, by the time this airs, that site will be up. It'll be up in like in a week from me.
Perfect.
And there'll be a waiting list for the book. And then as soon as it gets released, and for listeners of the show, it'll be available at just cost, just shipping.
Oh, great.
And an ambulance is going by, obviously. But yeah, so people that sign up on that list will get a pre-distribution, pre-launch copy of it, and just shipping and handling, whatever that is.
Great.
Won't be any more than like.
Well, that's a good deal. I think you'll find yourself selling an awful lot of books.
Yeah.
All right, Aaron. It sounds like your ride is there. I appreciate.
I know, it's crazy. Right? Hang on a second. Hang on. Obviously, right? Right at the end of the show. But there you go. Anyway.
Well, no, and you know what? That's a nice bit of punctuation. You have spent plenty of your time with us. I appreciate you being so generous with your time. Good luck with the book. I think it's going to do well. If judged strictly by the content that you're providing, it absolutely deserves to be a success. And I hope that ends up being true for you.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity, Robert. Like I said, I love, talking to interesting people that are, the same mindset. I love it. It's a message that you've been getting out for way longer than I thought about it. So, it's nice to meet like-minded people. Thanks for the opportunity to share.
Oh, no, it was a pleasure. Thanks again. I appreciate it.